All right, I guess for interest in time, we should go ahead and get started. I know we should have some additional people joining in, but did want to get going with our exciting presentation today. I hope wherever you guys are at, you're safe and healthy, and it's interesting of times for all of us, no matter where we are in the world. EXL is conducting a number of series and briefings on different industry topics. So today we're very excited to talk about digitizing your collection strategy with a new tool called EXL PayMentor. Please feel free to ask questions or type your questions throughout the session, or we have a session at the end for Q&A. So please feel free to send any questions that you have during the course of the presentation today, or save them for the end. Either way, we'll get to them as quickly as we can. We have a number of folks on the line from the EXL team. Would like to turn it over to Ankur Rai, who will introduce his team and start the engagement. Ankur, over to you.
Thanks, John. I'm Ankur Rai. I'm the Chief Digital Officer at EXL. I'm joined by a few of my colleagues on this webinar. Vikas Sharma, who leads our banking and financial services business, works very closely with our financial services clients and has spearheaded some of the thought leadership for this collection solution based on his experience over the last 10 years, helping clients improve their collections. Dan is our collections expert. He's worked extensively across Europe as well as the United States, helping third-party collection agencies as well as large banking and financial services companies improve their collections, whether it be on phone channels or on digital channels. We will also have on the call Gaurav Iyer, who heads our digital solutions and is building out the guts of what you're going to see today. And Puneet Murarka, who leads the development team behind this solution. So with that, let's jump right in to the next page. Collections is a large problem, right? It's a $200 billion problem depending on how you define it. Over the last 10 years, as we've helped our clients with collections, we observed 2 or 3 big issues. One, while every other customer touch point was moving towards digital, collections still remained primarily a phone channel. Second, while every other customer touch point was measured on customer experience and building loyalty, collections, while partially explained by the nature of the act, still remained largely adversarial. And the combination of only being on phone, therefore it being transactional, and the adversarial nature of this meant that people stopped picking up phones. It took a long time to get into contact with someone you needed to collect your money from. And if you didn't get in touch with this person over the first 30 or 60 days of them going delinquent, it significantly reduced your chances of collecting from this person. So we wanted to help. I think there might be some background noise, so anyone who's not speaking might want to just be on mute. So recognizing these problems in the industry, we have developed a digital solution for collections. It enables our financial services customers to start, execute, and close the entire collections journey on our channel. And if we go to the next page, we'll talk about what makes digital so powerful. As we've analyzed collections, and I alluded to this earlier, getting to the customer in the first 30 to 60 days in a thoughtful, considerate manner greatly increases the chances of collecting from that customer. What we realized is that the phone channel sometimes took 45 days for the first phone contact. So you needed a channel which the customer was going to be using on their own time and when they thought it fit, without feeling threatened or in an adversarial transaction. And that's where digital comes in. In our experience, we can reduce the time to collect by 10 to 20%. We've been able to reduce the cost to collect by around 10 to 30%. And actually, for certain segments, sometimes that cost to collect reduces by over 80%. And we're able to improve the overall collections rate, which means if you had 100 customers who owed you $100 each, earlier, if you were collecting X dollars, with the digital solution in place, you can collect Y dollars, which is greater than X, and therefore your losses reduce. As you can see, all these dollars flow directly to the bottom line. A very valid question at this point can be, so what? Why do we need this now? You just have to look around. Collections is an ever-increasing problem. All US as well as European financial services companies are figuring out how to augment their capacity to counter this. And therefore, this is very timely, and the market traction we're seeing from our clients. Every client is spending money and making buying decisions on this. I'm going to pause for a moment. We had a poll for the team on this. It's just a way for us to engage you and get and understand your input. Based on what you're seeing, what do you think is the biggest challenge to collections in financial services firms? Could you just select one? Naman, I'm going to request you to basically show us the results when appropriate. We have a pretty thin group, so I can imagine that might not have enough responses. I think that's very interesting. Extreme reliance on the phone channel is basically 100%. To us, I think that was the driver, and then we realized improvement of customer experience was key. Let's go back to the presentation. Let's go to the next page. I'm going to hand it over to my colleague Vikas here to take you through how, when we go to market, we're really differentiated because we know a lot about the client because of our expertise and benchmarks before we even talk to them for the first time. Vikas, over to you.
Thank you, Ankur. So team, here what we're showing you is how we start a dialogue with the clients. Our starting point is always an opportunity identification exercise with them, where we are able to look at their data and then compare it to the industry benchmark. Right? So for example, for one of the clients here, it's a sanitized example. What we are showing is in the first 45 days, they are collecting slower than the competition. Right? They're collecting 2 to 3% lower, but that translates into a 4 to 5% higher delinquency in the later stages. So which means what we are trying to show here is early stage is very, very important. If you collect lower here, you are going to have a bigger portion of balances which are still unpaid after 120, 150 days. And then that starts translating into a much higher loss for them. So around a 4 to 5% higher loss, actual loss because of this. Right? And these are all examples before the COVID world. So we do expect our clients are going to start seeing a much higher delinquency once a lot of the payment programs expire in July or August of this year. But just before that, even earlier stages for this client, which is regional bank, we could see that there was opportunity to improve their bottom line by almost $50 million. If you could just improve the collection rate in first 45 days by 2 to 3%, this would translate into $50 million annual impact for them, and even higher as many of the clients are going to struggle with the delinquencies in the COVID world. Ankur, back to you. Then can we move to next page? And Naman, we might want to unmute Ankur. I think he's on mute.
No, that's fine. Thank you. I was just waiting for the next page. So what we analyzed the market, and we realized that clearly customers had realized that they need to move to digital collections, right? So that was clear. The concept of digital collections is not like teleportation. But we realized there was a big market gap. Customers could either build internally or they had to use a third-party platform. And to some extent, the customer feedback we got was it was like being stuck between a rock and a hard place. If you built internally, the patchwork of legacy systems along with new systems made execution and development very complex. And even simple things like sending an email and seeing if your customer had opened the email, or sending a text and tracking the response to that was very difficult in a legacy environment. Again, can I request someone who's not speaking to be on mute? Thank you. When using a third-party platform, the issue was that third-party platforms are very rigid, and you've got to replace a large part of your infrastructure if you want to utilize a third-party platform. And for collections, they were largely workflows, so they didn't have too much intelligence. So we built PayMentor keeping in mind what gaps the clients were trying to fill. So first, we made it modular, as you'll see on the succeeding page. What that means is customers did not have to buy the entire solution. They could buy only the intelligence or only the digital execution or even only the human execution to fill their most important need first. Second, we used EXL analytics capability and experience with collections over the years to build cutting-edge machine learning into the intelligence layer. So what customers got was not workflow, but right off the bat, get something that could help them collect better. And lastly, we focused on making sure that integration was not going to be a big problem. And as you'll see, there is a facility and a pathway to get a customer going live within 2 weeks of making a decision. So those are the differentiators as against available customer options. Let's move to the next page. This is what I talked about, 4 modules. Intelligence, which has machine learning models that help decide how you should treat the customer, what frequency you should communicate with them, when you should communicate with them, the tone you should use. All that is built into pre-canned models and only need to be tuned for the customer's population. Second, digital execution, which means without worrying about the customer's internal platforms, we provide the ability to send emails, texts, IVR, and that is the simple part, to actually track whether emails are open, to track engagement. And then we have a customer portal, which Dan is going to demo, which allows the banking delinquent customers to close the collections journey without ever having to talk to a human. So not only does it reduce cost, but the customer experience is phenomenal because you never feel you're in an adversarial transaction. We also provide a human execution there. Sometimes customers want augmentation of their phone rep capacity, but that's a separate module. We just help integrate it. And all of this is on an end-to-end infrastructure. It's an AWS-based solution. We have also integrated certain partner capabilities within it. So it's a one-stop shop for something that can go live in 2 weeks for our customers. Let's go to the next page for the architecture. This is the architecture. I will let me share with you what customers are really getting attracted to. What we're hearing from customers is that the intelligence layer is very critical to them. The models they have today only distinguish between delinquent customers based on whether they've owed money for 30 days, 60 days, or 90 days. So what we're able to actually do is build machine learning models that are able to take micro decisions, and clients need to invest to build that. And so they are very attracted to that. Second, they're attracted to the customer and payment portal. They don't have that. They cannot close a collections journey online. and we offer the ability to modify loans on the portal itself. And last, they're attracted by the light integration. Customers are exhausted by the heavy integration of third-party platforms, which take years to bring online, and therefore they love the fact that they can interact with our platform simply by sending a collections file and with very light integration back into their system. What we also provide them is data that allows them to manage their internal phone channels using data that we provide. So for example, if a bank is communicating with me by email, and we know that I opened the email using EXL PayMentor, that information goes back to our client, so that if the client connects with me on the phone, they know that I opened an email. So they're not starting a conversation off cold. So it's really providing omni-channel capabilities to the client in a very easy to consume way. Let's go to the next page, and Vikas, I'm going to hand it over to you here. You might be on mute.
Page. So team, on this page, we wanted to show you a little bit details about the intelligence module. So this has 5 components, and then I'm going to share with you what we typically see at clients, and then how our solution helps them improve the level of intelligence within the solution. Right? The first part is communication segment itself. Right? Typically, when we go to clients, their journeys are all dependent upon days past due. Right? So it's a workflow designed by the operations team, and there is very little focus on customer experience there. And then that is what we bring to the table. Right? The first part itself is, rather than sending everybody canned messages which get fired on 7 days of delinquency, on 14 days of delinquency, or whatever schedule they might have, we encourage clients to start using a lot wider variety of data, looking at the customer behavior with them, looking at customer data outside through bureaus, through other third-party vendors, analyzing a lot of the detailed trade level data to understand payment hierarchies, and then accordingly customize their communications to clients. So for example, we are able to identify people who are self-payers, people who are going to actually pay themselves. And there we go with a lighter touch. We go with a very polite messages versus there might be customers who might be high value at risk, where we need to start pushing aggressively and then start changing our strategies. So from the start itself, our solution is able to create those differentiated journeys. The second module here is communication channels. What we see at most clients is they do have some kind of patchwork solution. They have a legacy infrastructure. They build some of these channels like email, SMSs on top of that. But the biggest problem they have is trying to get data from these channels back into their decision flow. And then this is something which comes canned with a solution. Whenever we are interacting with the customer, that data is flowing back to us real time. That is changing our models, our strategies real time. And that is a big attractiveness for our clients. The third part is communication schedule. And then this is where, again, I did talk about, typically the communication schedule is based on your level of delinquency. We are using a lot of cutting edge techniques here. So we use reinforcement learning to help us identify the optimal channel, optimal frequency, optimal time. And then we always experiment with around 5% of the population with the clients place with us, to keep testing a lot of these challenger strategies and then see how we can improve the performance even further. The next part is communication journey. And this is also very, very important because this is where a lot of the customer behavior angles come into the picture. And what we have designed is for all the segments that we described earlier, right? We have a tone progression put in place. And then based on customer behavior, based on how they're interacting with us, we are able to change the tone, start becoming a little bit more assertive as the time passes by, as we still haven't received the payment. And then that enables us to basically trigger the customers to start opening up our SMSs, emails, giving them more incentives to do that, communicating how we are creating more attractive programs, and then start getting them to close things on the site. And then the last part is treatment. This is where we use machine learning techniques. Typically, when we look at clients, they use still a lot of traditional models to identify how much they are going to get from an end customer. But using machine learning, we are able to improve the predictive power of these models. we are able to understand, looking at all the data from interaction channels, looking at all the information customer provide to us about their hardship, we are able to plan the appropriate payment solution for them and then get customers to start following that. I'll quickly jump to the next slide as well, because apart from the intelligence module, digital execution is an important component of our solution, and the most important part for clients is a self-service portal, right? And the reason it is important is typically many of the clients who even have digital channels in place today, digital acts as a feeder to the phone channel, right? So when they send SMSs, when they send emails, the call to action is to call a phone number. And then using our self-service portal, we don't need to do that. We can close a lot of these journeys on the portal itself. And this is just an example of how it makes a difference, right? So this is, again, a sanitized example for here an end customer who had a $15,000 balance. And then when it went delinquent, our client tried calling through phone, and they were able to reach them. And then in 1 month, the end customer communicated a hardship. But from that point onwards to basically signing a loan workout agreement, it took them almost 5 months, innumerable number of calls, right party connects and emails, and finally in 5 months they were able to structure the program. Versus when we look at the new journey through our PayMentor solution, once we are aware of the hardship, we are able to give that ability to the end customer so that they can design the program with us, and then that 5-month journey gets shortened to half months only. And then we are able to structure a loan workout agreement on the self-service portal itself, and then let the customer follow ahead with that. We'll talk a little bit more in details about different journeys, and this is just one example, but I'll hand it over to Ankur to take us through the rest of that.
So this is going to be a quick handover because we're going to hand it to Dan for our demo. But what you see over here is, obviously, there are multiple collections journeys possible. We're going to take a pretty complex one, the one in blue, where you're going to see the machine learning capabilities in action. So what that means is you're going to see Dan execute a first contact with a customer. It's going to be a soft contact. The customer is not going to pay attention. The second one's going to be a little harder in tone. The customer is going to go to the website, but not do too much. Then you're going to see a third contact. So what we're going to show you is this progression of learning from customer behavior, changing the actions, which actually spur further progress down the customer journey. So Dan, over to you for the demo.
Ankur.
You.
Thanks. Okay, am I unmuted?
Yes, we can hear you, Dan. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. So as Ankur just said, I'll pick one account, and let it be Chuck Norris's account. And what I'm doing now, obviously it's a demo environment, so it's not a real collections process. So we're running a decision engine for that particular account to set up the first template, message template, for each and every channel. So we're not segregating for now between the channels, even though it's part of the functionality. And then we will be sending out those messages, and then I'll share my email, and you will see the message itself, and then I'll take it from there. So I'll try to show you the real life customer experience, the way it is. Okay, so the message has been sent. It should come in a second. Okay. So this is the first message, and a couple of words about the layout. So you would say, why is EXL mentioned here in the email address? Why is it coming from EXL if the solution is for the first party collections? And the answer is very simple. So our current technologies, they allow us to use any email address for the outbound emails and any phone number for outbound SMS campaigns. All we need to do, we just need to get the email address itself. We don't need to have access to the email server of the client or anything like that. There is no integration. We just send the verification email. It's getting verified on the client side, and we can be using their email address for our outbound communication. Also, you can see the logo of the client and the look and feel, the colors of the table, headline. Everything is highly customizable, and everything is branded with our client name. So EXL is not mentioned anywhere. So like I said, this is purely first-party collections on behalf of our clients. Then a couple of words about the data in the email. You can see the name of the client, of the debtor. You can see some account details. All that information is obviously structured and is saved in the backend, on the backend side, from which it is picked automatically through, it's metadata. It's taken from the backend side automatically. You don't need to capture anything. As well as the logo, which is semi-structured data, as well as the payment and opt-out links. This is non-structured data. So all that is taken and pasted into this email automatically. So if you have 1,000 emails, it will be pasted automatically, and you don't need to worry about this. And you can always change the logo, and it will be picked automatically from the backend. Just sorry for the distraction, but just to give you the understanding of how it works. Now let's look at the email itself. Look at the first line. You see how polite it is. It's not even a collections email. It's more of a polite reminder. It says that we are valuing the continued business between us and the client, actually the customer, and that we understand that these things can get sometimes overlooked. The idea is to politely remind the person about his debt, because that particular person, based on the decision engine, fell into the high value big spender category, where people usually have huge loyalty to the client, to our client, to the bank or fintech or credit union. And the idea is not to put pressure on them right away, but to remind them politely first, and then, depending upon their behavior, gradually increase the tone, making it more and more assertive up until they click this link. The idea is to make them click the link. That's another differentiator, by the way. We're not converting emails into phone calls. We're not mentioning phone numbers here. We are trying to close the deal digitally altogether. So the person should click the link and get to the self-service portal, capture his credentials to get inside the portal, and take it from there. But let's assume for a second that the person ignored this email. He might have clicked the link, or may not even click the link. He just ignored the message. So now let's see what the system does next. So we're going back to the analyst portal from which the collections control is happening, and we're just manually rerunning the decision engine. The information about the email being delivered has already been provided to the engine. So now the system knows that the email was delivered and even the link was clicked, but no further action happened. So the person did not capture his credentials, he did not log into the portal, hence he did not see the treatment offering, which means that we need to motivate him to do that. How? Through the right tone. And this is what the tone progression is Vikas was talking about on that one of the last slides. So now we're sending the second email. And in that email, obviously you'll see it in a second, but while it's coming, I'll just give you some short teaser. In that email, the tone is still polite, but a little bit more assertive. So you will see the slight difference in tone between the first email and the second one. Given how valuable these customers are from this group, it's important not to make it overly assertive. So there are little tiny steps, and there are multiple layers of this type of communication to finally get to the point where the person will be motivated enough to click the link. So let's open the email and look at it. So at the beginning, in the first sentence, it says about the overdue balance. So it's already the first kind of signal that, okay, it's not just a polite reminder, there's an overdue balance. And then it still is very polite. And at the end, it's using the first motivator. It says, you can avoid any unnecessary late fees. So we start using the motivators for the person to act faster. So I'm not going further away along this path, because obviously there are more emails we can send to, make it more and more and more assertive. But let's for now assume that the person clicks the link and logs into the portal. Now, a couple of words about the portal itself. You can see the URL, you can see the logo, and the list of credentials being used, as well as some other layouts and look and feel. Everything is highly customizable. First of all, URL. As soon as our clients provide us with any URL they want this portal to be kind of hosted, we can always use that for this link. And it doesn't need to be hosted there. It just needs to be mentioned there, because we're using mashup technology for that, which allows us to cover with any URL available. It just needs to exist. Secondly, the logos, the colors, the fonts, the sizing and layouts and alignments, everything is customizable as per the client needs. They provide us with their logos as pictures. They can provide us with the style sheets, if any. If they don't have it, we can look at their internet portal and try to copy the same to create the look and feel of the client's internet portal, so that the debtor, while logging into the portal, he doesn't feel like he is dealing with somebody else. And the credentials. We currently are using date of birth and zip code. However, we can change it to make it like a single sign-on with the current client's portal, so that if the client is using some PIN to make people log into the portal, we can use the same PIN here. As long as the data is provided to us and is stored on the back end of the system, it can be used here, or any other pieces of information they need. Okay, so now let me capture the date of birth of that person. Everything is, of course, made up. So we're going to the next page. And on this page, you can see a list of debts, delinquent debts of that particular customer. The key information is captured here. You can see the account number, the term remaining in months, delinquent amount, loan amount of origination, and all the other characteristics. Everything is customizable again. We can very quickly, it's a matter of hours probably, not even days, to customize the layout for this page, to delete some of the lines, to add more parameters if required, just to make sure that the person understands what that we're talking about here. Now, there are 3 action buttons for each account. By the way, very quickly, why are we using tiles layout, not table view, like standard banking portal use? The reason is very simple, because we are understanding that the people will be using their phones mainly, and phones have different screen resolution. So we need to use the interface, which is the most convenient for them and the most fits best for any screen resolution. And we're using GSP technology here, which allows us to reshuffle the objects. So each and every piece of information on the screen is an object which is reshuffled automatically based on the screen resolution. If the screen gets narrow, then this 2-column view will be reshuffled and we will only have 1-column view. The buttons will be realigned in a vertical way. So everything is will look beautifully on the screen. Now 3 buttons. Dispute this debt is 1. It is not really collections related and is used mainly in very rare cases when people disagree with the fact of the debt, or they don't believe the delinquent amount is so high. So when they want to dispute this, they click this button. There would be either a questionnaire, or we can capture a phone number of the compliance team or some other, call center, where they will discuss their complaints with the compliance managers. This is not collections related. Now, the second button is pay. When a person clicks this button, there are 2 options: either pay the debt in full or make the partial payment. In that case, the amount can be editable. And here and also the payment date. The person may choose any payment date from the calendar. And here's the trick. Obviously, some of the people or debtors will try to buy some time. They will try to pay later. They will try to pay less, hoping that it will fly, because it's a digital portal. There is no judgmental discussion. Nobody's calling you. There is no filtering, they think. So they can capture this and hope that this will go through. However, the system is smarter than this, and there are limitations, certain limitations, like for the payment amount as well as the payment date. It can only be within as many days from today as we parameterize. So these parameters are all parameterized. To change them, it takes literally a minute, so that the person cannot make any payment of any amount at any time, like in a year from today. So there are limitations. But for now, but before wrapping it up, let me quickly show you the key thing, actually. The key thing is when the person does not have enough funds to pay the whole amount, or even big sufficient partial amount, and he needs some payment assistance or some payment option provided from us. Obviously, we don't know anything about his situation. We don't know what's the reason for his delinquency. Or let's assume there are no phone calls and we don't have any information. So how to make the digital journey as informative for us to capture all the information we need from the person and take it into account for the future journey. This is where the real smarts kick in. And we click this button to get this payment assistance. And this is where the virtual journey starts. So the first question would be, what is the reason for your delinquency? And there is a comprehensive list. And depending upon the option they choose, the next question will or will not be asked. For instance, if it's a loss of job, obviously there is nothing else we should ask because it's self-explanatory and we clearly understand the situation. If it's reduced income, then we will probably ask, what was your previous net monthly income? What's your current net monthly income? And if a person struggles to capture this information, there is a calculator where he can capture all his financial details like primary monthly income, his mortgage payments, house rent payments, rental payments, food expenses, everything, including taxes even. Everything is taken into account to calculate the monthly disposable income. But let's for now assume that he had 3,000 disposable income and now it's 2,000. So this information has been captured by the person and we go to the next page. On this page, the system defined what would be the most affordable option for the person. And in our case, it's a long-term payment plan. So the system thinks that person can pay us up to $300, a little bit less, but around $300 a month. The person may also change the frequency of the payment, which we allow him to do. We'll try to make it as convenient as possible. He may choose it weekly payment. And everything, as you can see, automatically is recalculated. So then you can also check the payment schedule for this payment option to see all the payment dates and understand how long it will take you. And also we try to make it a little bit faster. So we are trying to reduce, and we understand that the person can only pay around $300. So we cannot reduce it drastically, but we can show him that if he pays it a little bit faster, not too much faster, but a little bit faster, in 2 less installments than the long-term plan, and his payment is going up just by $7 a month, he actually saves $153 on the interest, which will not be charged because he covers his debt faster. And the same for the short-term payment plan. When the person, again, his payment goes up by another $6 or $7, and his installments will be just 2 less. However, he will save $300 compared to the long-term payment plan. We just try to make collections like a race against time. We try to collect faster, which always makes sense. And here is another flexibility tool. In case the person wants to pay exactly $300, he doesn't want to pay $290, he doesn't want to pay $304, we allow him to capture any payment amount he wants. For instance, $300. And the system will quickly recalculate the payment schedule, and he can even check the schedule. Obviously, the last payment will not be the same because, it's very hard to guess the right amount to make it equally monthly installment. But in this case, the person can see again the payment schedule, can see the last payment, see that it's lower, and choose this plan. And again, the same screen, he may see the payment date, he may change the payment date, again, within the same constraints, he may choose the payment method. And by the way, payment method. So how do we collect money? How do we make it quick for our clients? Because we are collecting on their behalf, basically. And the answer is very simple. Each and every financial institution today has their own payment gateway provider, or maybe they use their own payment gateway created by them. All we just need their another merchant account, or they can give us access to the existing merchant account. And we need to understand what data is required for the gateway provider to redistribute the payments to the debtor's account later. And that's exactly what we do. So we collect the money on that merchant account. We capture all the details required for the gateway provider to split and redirect the payments to the customer's accounts. And that information is provided instantly to the client, actually even to the gateway provider if they work with one, which allows them to do it behind the scenes, so the client does not even need to do anything. We do I wouldn't even call it integration, we do the connection between us and the gateway provider. But for now, let's assume the person looked at this $300, his income was reduced, and he doesn't feel like he can pay this much. And he decides to sign out and just never came back to the portal. So basically, he checked the treatment option, he didn't like it. Either it's not affordable or anything else. But we know the reason for delinquency. We know that his income reduced drastically.
And Dan, I had one request. Maybe let's fast track to the settlement process. and then we can take some Q&A as critical.
Sure. Very quickly. Just the last email I'm sending. So the system now knows that the person has seen the offer. He received 2 emails. He saw the offer, but he didn't accept it, which implies that most probably the offer is not affordable. And that information is fed into the decision engine, and the decision engine can recalculate the collected amount from that person, how much we can collect from him, knowing the reason for delinquency. Because at each and every step, we're getting new deliverability reporting data. We know that the email was delivered or not, the person was engaged or not. And we also get the reasons for delinquency, which is very important for us. And that information can be used for the next treatment. And here, yes, the tone has changed, but it's not the point here. The point is actually on the bottom of the message. Now we're saying that we understand that customers can face financial hardships, and we're here to help you guys. And now you can actually even pick one of the affordable payment plans with a prolonged grace period. Just click the link here and check it out. The person does exactly that. He clicks the link. He wants to see what the offering is. Captures his credentials, and then he sees the same list of accounts. And I'm not repeating the same mantra about the buttons, so I'm just going directly to the payment assistance. You can see that the income has already been remembered because, like I said before, this information is captured instantly and saved on the back end in the database. So this time we're not asking him to capture anything. We're just asking him to confirm that this understanding is correct. He didn't make a typo before. He said yes, next. And here is exactly the medium-term hardship plan we're talking about in the email. Now the person can design his own payment plan. He may choose how many months of grace period he needs, how much money he can pay. Again, there are lots of limitations. For instance, he cannot pay $1 because it's too little. So minimum $20, which is again parameterized. And this is the new payment schedule. He submits his request, and now you can see that the next 6 months he'll be paying $20 a month, and then the payment schedule resumes to the initial one and becomes normal. So he will fix his situation, either related to the COVID-19 or something else, health issues, and then he'll get back on track. And then when he chooses this plan, the first payment is already fixed. He can only change the payment date within 10-day period from today, choose the payment method, pay. And here it's important to explain to him that this is not just a one-off payment. This is actually a new payment schedule. Hence, when we go to the email, the system will send him a reminder stating that thanks for enrolling into the new payment schedule, and it will definitely show him the schedule with the dates. And then every month, a couple days prior to the payment date, the system will be sending him reminders. Don't forget to pay $20. Great. Payment date is 17th of July. Please make the payment. Over to you, Ankor.
No, thank you, Dan. That was very detailed. We've got some questions that we've received. We'll just quickly run through those. So the first question that we've received is, what are the deployment options that EXL offers with this? So there are really 3 deployment options. The first is use digital collections as a service. So what that means is the customers can place their delinquent customer file with us. We execute digital collections and provide them data around that. And it's a per account charge along with a certain contingency based on dollars collected. The second option is build, where for our banking customer, we would basically use our cloud services, but build them a proprietary solution in their cloud. They would have the option to reuse some of their own components. The time to go live would be a little higher, but the customer would own the entire capability. They would have lifetime use of our components as long as it's for non-commercial purposes. The third option is build and manage for 3 years, where we would build it, but we would also manage this and then hand it over to the client teams. So really, you could use it like a service, or you could use our capability to build something proprietary for yourself. The second one, I think we've already talked about. How long does it take to deploy PayMentor for a lender? If you're using it as a service where you're using our cloud solution completely, within 2 weeks, we can go live. If you're trying to build it, it could be a little longer. We've already talked about how PayMentor compares with other third platforms. We're finding our customers buy from us because they want something modular. They don't want a year-long integration with a third-party platform. And the last question we got was, actually, there are two more, sorry. Second last question was, how is the intelligence module differentiated in EXL PayMentor? We've got machine learning based models that are built on some of our partner data. So these models right off the bat are account level models, which is going to be better than what 90% of financial services are using today to drive their collection strategy. The last question is, how can clients use this as an extension of their existing collections infrastructure? And we've talked about it, but really we know that clients are going to have their own phone operations. And we aim to not just provide the digital capability, but also provide signals that clients become omni-channel. So the data that we provide is in a format and can be used to power their phone collections and improve the phone collections experience. I think those are some of the quick responses to some of the questions that we have got from all of you. I think we've covered this in detail. I wanted to, I'll sort of close with 3 parting thoughts, and then if there's other questions besides the one we've received, we can answer those. To us, the reason for clients why clients are attracted to this is the quick integration time, which is basically about 2 weeks to go live without having to go through the trouble of building or the investment that's required to build something like this. The benefits that clients get are threefold. First, they can collect quicker, which is very critical because it's not just getting the delinquent money 2 weeks, 3 weeks earlier, but those 2 to 3 weeks could be the difference between getting the money or not getting it at all, because you get it earlier and therefore you are first in line of collection. The second benefit is reducing the cost of collection. As you would imagine, the cost of X number of phone calls is going to be many-fold greater than a few digital contacts. The third is reducing the charge-off rate, which is actually collecting from customers who otherwise you would have had to put into legal collections and probably never got the dollars back. The last piece, actually, I cheated. There are 4 benefits. The fourth one is customer experience. And in today's world, that's almost most critical. We realize that banking customers are in hardship, and it's not a very typical collections environment. Digital allows our clients, the banks, to be thoughtful and caring as they work with their own delinquent customers. And that builds retention and relationships for the long term. Delinquent customers remember that the banks they dealt with cared for them in their moment of hardship, and that builds a very deep and long-term relationship, just as it does on the marketing or the customer servicing side. So with that, I'm going to pause. John, I'm going to hand it back to you if there are questions. Otherwise, we can adjourn.
Great. Thanks, Sankar. Thanks, team. I really want to thank everyone for attending today. Before we close, if there are any additional questions, please send them via chat or through the questioning online. If you have any additional questions that you'd like to go into greater detail, please let me know. I'll be happy to set up some time with the team members to walk through it in greater detail with you. We will be conducting additional sessions like this in the near future, so look forward to hosting you guys again. Thanks again for your time, and have a great day. We'll call it a session and put some time back on everyone's calendar. Take care.